Welcome to the INFLUENCE DiCOTA Magazine Show, the premier talk show where we celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion in business, leadership, and innovation. Each episode will introduce you to influential leaders from all sectors, ethnicities, and backgrounds. We'll share with you the story behind their story of how they made it, and you can too. I'm your host, Cedric Fisher, 40-year career journalist and publisher of INFLUENCE DiCOTA Magazine. Welcome to the INFLUENCE DiCOTA Magazine Show, the premier talk show where we celebrate diversity in communities, opportunities, technologies, and amenities. Each episode, we introduce you to an influential leader. We tell you the story behind their story of how they made it, and you can too. If this is your first time joining us and you'd like more information, you can find us online at influencedicota.com. Follow us on social media. And for a recording of this particular episode, all past and future episodes, go to your YouTube search bar, toss in INFLUENCE DiCOTA Magazine Show. Once you pull us up, please subscribe, give us a like or a thumbs up, and hit that bell so that you don't miss any future episodes of the show. All right. This week, we have the incredible pleasure of welcoming Hebrew L. Dixon, a servant leader and builder who's currently running or campaigning to become the 37th General President of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. Aside from his active campaigning, Dixon currently serves as Director of Supplier Diversity at ARCO Design Build Companies, Inc., where he develops and manages strategic supplier diversity initiatives for the company. Dixon received his degree from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, where he studied agricultural engineering. His work experience in several presidential and directive positions of authority has channeled into his own mission for his current campaign, which centers around embracing and exercising talents, economic power, and leadership skills of Black men within the Brotherhood. Dixon aims to strengthen the connection within the Brotherhood, provide opportunities for Black men to secure business alliances, and provide Black men with a voice in national conversations. Without further ado, help me welcome Mr. Hebrew L. Dixon to the show. Welcome to the show, Hebrew.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cedric. I'm so glad to be here.
So we want to begin this interview with a little discussion about your youth, where you're from, the family dynamics, and what was home life like as a child?
Absolutely. I'm from the heart of the country in Dayton, Ohio. My mom is Lorena Mae Mays, and my dad was Hebrew L. Dixon III. Raised by both of my parents independently, but spent most of the time with my father growing up from third grade to graduating high school. And that is in the center of Dayton, Ohio, in Residence Park. I'm a product of vocational education in Dayton, Ohio, where I chose to be in a drafting profession. Engaged a lot in the environment of Dayton. Music was my thing, right? Dayton was strong in music, and I was in the band. And from third grade on, I'm the drum major twice in high school, and enjoyed that experience leading the band and engaging in my little band pieces. Of course, we'd had some athletics with track and those kinds of things. So high school was amazing for me. Dayton was an amazing place to grow up. If you don't recall, it's the capital of funk, and that brings its own set of experiences and relationships together. So I'm so excited that in that early age, I was able to be molded by not only my father, sure, my mother, absolutely, but their friends, right? It truly takes a village. It wasn't popular at that time, but I learned from all of the friends and family of those eras. I spent a lot of time in North Carolina growing up with my grandparents in Enfield and my other grandparents in Middletown, Ohio. So fond memories of all of those things that breeds these results that come out later in life. When you look back and understand kind of how you became who you are, you're a product of all these pieces who had their hands on you. And that Dayton experience through Middletown, North Carolina, and others is just such a blessing to me now is that I'm older and able to reflect.
No doubt about it. I'm trying to think of some of the big groups that came out of Dayton. So is that Gap Band?
Not Gap, but Dayton, Fazo, Slave, Roger Trotman. Can't forget about Roger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ohio players. Come on.
Okay.
Yes,
How about,
sir. Absolutely.
how about Bootsy Collins? Was he from Dayton?
Bootsy from Cincinnati.
Cincinnati? Okay.
Yeah, and he played
Yeah.
in James Brown's band, but he was and he actually still is in Cincinnati doing a few things. But
Yeah.
but you know, the MSA of of Dayton, Ohio, it may reach down that far, but definitely in the same space, in the same time frame as well. As they say, it's Bootsy and James being on the one. That's that whole thing as far as the music is concerned.
Yeah.
Funkadelic did it through James Brown, so that's a good thing.
Outstanding. What a place to be from.
Yes,
so
sir.
Characteristically, sounds like you were either a happy-go-lucky kid or just kind of inquisitive and adventurous.
Yeah, I was on the other side of that dialogue. See, I like to break things and fix something. So I was always trying to fix something, build something, figure out how something worked. From the early days. So from the Flintstone blocks to the Legos, to taking things that was available to my father had this friend of his who had this amazing wood shop in his basement. So I was at all how those things came together. So yeah, from that context, I enjoyed kind of figuring out how things work and trying to figure out this equation I still talk about is 2 is always equal 5. The sum is greater than the parts. You got to make things work. Absolutely.
Okay. Was there a particular individual you kind of considered a mentor or who really influenced you to become who you are today?
You know, I've been so blessed, Cedric, several in my life. If we could turn the page to the middle years, if you will, I have several mentors coming up, through the baseball teams, to bowling, to being in the band, being the drum major, learning the band environment, which is very culturally disciplined kind of space. You have to practice, you have to perform. So those kinds of things help mold me. Individuals, of course, spending their time with my father, my grandparents. Those from Annie Rose in Middletown to Queen Estella in Enfield, North Carolina, and spending time with them, picking cucumbers and looking at the work ethic that they had, and they were amazing human beings, and they just had this sense of spirituality around them. From I can realize now. So from those humble beginnings, putting seeds where they had opportunity to get some soil and some water and some sun, proved yourself up from those silo years. And just the greatest human being I know is my father. He was Hebrew L. Dixon Jr. was this guy. He was the guy, the biggest heart I've ever known, and he was just amazing. He loved my mother. She was great in her space, but my father was the one who taught the love from the agape perspective and was always caring and giving in his life.
Outstanding. So you attended North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University for your degree in architectural engineering.
Yes. Aggie pride. That's how we do that.
That's great.
Yes,
so that's at HBCU.
It is.
And talk to us a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, A&T was a space, and I was dropped off with my father and my brother. I looked, and there was bullet holes in the side of the dorm. It was called Scott Hall at the time. And I was like, what am I getting into, right? So I looked. I didn't have the history at that time. A&T was my incubator of life. It was this amazing place where I was able to try and learn and grow and be successful and make mistakes and just become this person from day one to exit. That day when I was exiting, I was this molded entity. So architectural engineer was, of course, the degree. And in itself, from a mentoring perspective, there's this amazing guy who's gone to glory now. His name is Reginald Wissett. Reginald Wissett was this guy who talked about academic excellence. I was able to found the Engineering Honor Society. I had to go to Lehigh and petition the National Engineering Honor Society to give A&T a chapter. So those kind of experiences, those mentors allowed me, of course, in the A&T marching band. I was a sax marching kind of brother. I marched with the sax, and I was drum major several years while at A&T. And from those things, it's leadership in different spaces and places, Honor Society, but being a part of my experience in the fraternity through the 49th house of this great august body, Beta Epsilon chapter. I was initiated November 14, 1981. And 6 on my line, I was number 5. My line name was Monarch, and our line name was Murphy's Law. So that's a whole nother story, right? But it was that was an opportunity for me to really engage on a national level because I was involved in the fraternity and saw the track that I was attracted to regarding my service, my humanity, my giving back to folks that was seeded to me early in my life. This gave me that vehicle to be able to do that in a larger space, right? In a North Carolina state, and of course in the southern region, because I aspired and was awarded and was elected assistant vice president of the southern region, which was 7 states. So that was a huge opportunity as a senior in college. I was going around talking to brothers all over the South, and in some cases nationally, about the issues that they had, the issues that the fraternity had. So those kind of things was amazing to me. So the band was amazing. Honor Society was amazing. So A&T is this place of, I go back. I've never missed one homecoming, one in the whole time I've been gone. It's just the thing I have to do. It's like that salmon swimming up the stream, whatever it takes, right, to get back to an A&T and begin to give homage to that incubator that helped me so much, and that helps so many other people as well.
Yeah. And the relevance of HBCUs is always somewhat of a controversial topic. What's your opinion on that? And how's it really impacted your success?
Sure, absolutely. The way I was raised, wherever I am, I have to be successful. So from that context, it was not a if, it's a how. How is that going to happen? Engagement. So, but I'll tell you this: I had the opportunity to co-op where I was at A&T. I co-opted in high school and I co-opted in college. My college co-op was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where my mother and father retired from. While there, I went to University of Dayton. So I went and took thermodynamics. So I was there, a chapter there, and in the Alpha chapter as an undergrad. So I've got that experience. But I'm going to tell you, back to your question, what I found at A&T was it provided the more personal conversations about not only subject matter, but why it's important to engage in the trenches of subject matter, why you must be overly prepared for the experience that you're going to get outside of the halls and buildings of the HBCU experience, that you have to be and represent the school. So that's point one. Two, we had so many opportunities because of the classes that I've taken. I'm an architectural engineer, which was a 5-degree at that time, to be the best and brightest on the planet in that space, because we had peers in the community of industry, of architectural engineering, that came back to the university and shared, right? They shared some of their successes and failures, and those kinds of things help you begin to get your armor right as you go out. And I think the answer again to the question is, what is the HBCU experience for me? Is making sure I had a chance to engage and grow in an environment that was nurturing to me, the people that I had a similar background to, and that the instructors were something I can look at and reminded me of the folks at home that I could have these conversations with. And the class size was smaller. That means a lot from some have been in classes where class sizes are huge. So from that context, those are the things that I find that provides some more long-term value. Obviously, the relationships that you build in the HBCU, in the band, right, in the fraternity and other entities when you go back, and everywhere from an art perspective, from the silo of A&T, I could be in any place in the world and I say Aggie Prize, somebody's going to turn around and say it back, right? So from that context, again, it's just that lifelong opportunities to engage with that HBCU experience. But from that, it helped me be the person I am now, aggressive yet humble, caring, but also you have to be somewhat pushed through issues if you must, right? To get to solving problems and those kinds of things. So it was a great place for me to personally, for me to be. I wouldn't do anything other than that. And I think all that should have those experiences where you can get somewhere you get the agape love in a space and be able to be nurtured and be able to grow and have some successes and some failures. I think failures are somewhat underrated. Those are opportunities to grow, and the issue is how can you make them not cost you so much, because you're going to make mistakes. But the best thing is you can look at those in a way that you can learn from them and be better because of it.
Okay, last question about your college experience. So
yes,
as a black man in college, did you feel any pressure? And if any, did anything kind of ensure your trajectory into where you've arrived professionally?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was at A&T, the Klan marched downtown Greenville. So we dealt with those issues, obviously, with Jesse Jackson and the whole sit-in and history of A&T in the A&T 4, February 1. That whole part of that puzzle was put on us as an imprint and then having to be with Jesse Jackson, because he was running for president at the time. This was a long time ago, but he was in that conversation. So I remember marching with him. I remember, yelling and screaming and out there. So absolutely the pressures of the social environment from a rights perspective was definitely, that was imprinted upon us. And we had firsthand knowledge at it, right? We're not talking about, what we saw on TV or we were out there dealing with those issues. Nothing light threatening, but issues just the same. And the other overlaying pressure, the thing that really we felt is that we must represent well. We must learn our craft, and we must, because we're unfortunately in some cases, not all, when we walk in the door, we're less than. And that's somewhat prevalent today. But the reality is that I know when I'm an architectural engineer in any space I've been, I was better trained in most cases, better prepared, because I had to kind of tighten my suit, if you will, and be able to engage and grow. So from those pressures of being able to making sure you do that, graduate is an obvious thing you must do, but more than that, you must succeed and excel, because you represent more than, from my lineage, you represent, my father, my mother, right? And then you, of course, the A&T architectural engineering community, which is a small and tight-knit community that we I was chairman of our A department alumni organization for years and engaged students, because that's kind of how they taught us to do. So yeah, absolutely. Being able to go out and share that. But the other side of the equation is that we have to also make sure that we have to understand that everybody outside of that bubble doesn't have a focal point on us being negative. Sometimes people outside the bubble are just so excited to see a good human being come out that has skill sets and the mentality to be able to engage in civic-minded, business-minded solution processes in a way that a team wins, right? So those kinds of things helped. And those fraternity experiences about how a team wins and coming up through the band and track and those things and how a team wins, those are the pieces of the puzzle that the HBCU environment taught us as well as we began to go out and make our mark in the world from that context. Absolutely.
We're having a conversation with Mr. Hebrew L. Dixon, candidate for 37th president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back.
All right.
In the heartland of America, a remarkable woman was born into a large family, destined to share her wisdom with the world. Her name? Thelma J. Love. From her humble beginnings in a small town, Thelma's journey became a tapestry of love, loss, triumphs, and trials. Each thread, each chapter contributing to her perfectly imperfect masterpiece. Through heartbreak, loss, and the hardships of life, she faced her trials head-on. And she emerged victorious, finding her true identity and power within her own perfect imperfection. Inspired by powerful women like Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou, and Oprah Winfrey, Thelma now urges you to embrace your story, own it, and turn it into your strength, to become the author of your own destiny. Thelma's memoir is not just a book, it's a beacon, illuminating the path for others to walk in their authentic selves. For you to rise above your circumstances and choose to be a victor, not a victim. Thelma J. Love's A Perfectly Imperfect Masterpiece is available now on all major online retailers. Join her on this remarkable journey. And together, let's create a legacy of love, hope, and infinite possibilities. Your story is waiting. Are you ready to write it? A Perfectly Imperfect Masterpiece by Thelma J. Love. Available now.
Okay, welcome back to the show, Hebrew.
Thank you.
Let's continue where we left off at. So,
right.
Now we know you're currently campaigning for the 37th General President of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity.
Yes.
Full disclosure, viewers, that's my beloved fraternity as well.
Right.
So I'm definitely interested in hearing more from Hebrew, as the rest of us are.
Right.
So for those that are unfamiliar with the fraternity, what is it? What's the significance? And why did you choose to run for president?
Sure. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is the country's largest and first intercollegiate organization, birthed on the college campus in Ithaca, New York, that has 7 jewels as our founding members. And their focal point was making sure we did several things. One, that we did things with manly deeds. We looked at our scholarship, and we had love for all mankind. So those contexts give us a lens to kind of work forward in the future. We have several national programs that we engage. We, go to high school, go to college, big brothers, big sisters. We engage those things. And we have other programs that empower us to take our chapters, over 600 chapters in a global organization that empowers people to do what? Manly deeds, as we talk about, scholarship and love for all mankind, as I mentioned earlier. Those are the tools that we take and we engage. We have alumni chapters and we have, of course, college chapters. And many of our brothers come through the college ranks like I did, and then others, and other of them goes to alumni chapters. At the end of the day, we become this army of college-trained men of a same mindset that have rifle-focused ideas and aspirations as it relates to serving the area of our chapters, if you will, our community. And then also making sure that we do all we can to do iron sharpens iron, to be as best as we can as human beings, to be able to empower these things that we develop over our life, our skill sets, to be able to help people. That's the ultimate piece for me, is that we're going to help people. Why I'm running for general president? I've been blessed by the fraternity. As I mentioned earlier, I was assistant region vice president of the Southern region. It was only 5 college brothers that's on the board at a period of time. I was one of those back in the late 80s. I was also the 21st executive director of the fraternity that's managing the global efforts of our organization based out of Baltimore. I was always involved in committees and growing in different places I lived. National committees I was chair of was our building foundation, and we erected a house on our property in Chicago in the late 90s. And in more recent, I was chair of our building and assessment committee, which dealt with our property in Baltimore, dealt with the issue of gentrification, dealt with our assets, our opportunities to, if you will, retool that property for greater use in the area of Baltimore for other things. All that being said, all those different lenses I've had in my life, from a business owner to diversity activities to the religious space, for a time where we're dealing with right now in fraternity, we're exiting or somewhat pausing, if you will, in the COVID world that's still going on. We have these racial issues. We have gun violence. And for me, it's not so much gun violence that's done by other races to us. I want to also lift up gun violence that we do to ourselves, right? There's some opportunity to be responsible for those activities in a way that we can lift up that's not good as well. And how can we get better in that space? So it's more of accountability for me, making sure we can give back to our organization and give us an opportunity to look at where we're going right now and say, what is our lens for the next 50 or 25? And are we making the best steps now to make that a reality, where we are measuring what we do, we engage what we think is valuable, more importantly, but we measure in a context of being able to prove A, to ourselves that we do these things in a way that's sustainable, and B, making sure we share the story of what we do in our communities to folks that's inside our space and individuals that's outside our space. Ultimately, that we can make a difference where we stand. In our chapters, our college alumni, we have to make a difference where we stand. And our national program speaks to those things that were birthed in those times. We have special projects where we engage. But chapters have the autonomy to look at their community and say, if there's a need, fill it. Let's talk about that. How do we do that? That's a great idea. Let's lift it up. Maybe it should be a national effort, or maybe it should be a regional effort. Those are the things for me that resonate with me and empower me to get up and work hard for the fraternity, because I know it's bigger than me. I'm a humble servant. I'm just blessed to be able to look at my life in a rearview mirror perspective and say, oh, wow, man, I've had these opportunities and I'm this person because of those. Well, it's time to sponge that life gives us. Cedric, you can appreciate that. It's time to wring it out. It's time to share the blessings that we've given, and in some cases, set courses that's necessary to focus on based on those experiences, right? So we have an amazing group of young brothers coming through the fraternity. We have an amazing group of middle-aged brothers, and our senior brothers are just so ripe with knowledge. And I think that our potential is the greatest. Our conversation that we're lifting up is this thing called generational relevancy. And generational relevance is a way that we want to make sure that we're always relevant. We're always listening to the ground, whatever time frame we're in. And then more importantly, how do we look at those things from a brotherhood perspective, from a leadership perspective, and an economic perspective, and make sure that we look into in an honest assessment, making sure things that we find are necessary, that we reinforce those. But things that are necessary, because what the world has done, we have to respond to what the world says. We're all our products of the world to be able to do good and do well in that space. And I believe in the power of our men. And I believe that the aggregate of our intellectual property, our human capital, our social capital should be realized and should be deployed where necessary. And that's the kind of conversation I'm having is one that's forward thinking and aggressive in a way that if there's something we need to change, let's change it. But more importantly, let's make sure we stay in the trenches and stay in this conversation about how we protect those that are unprotected and how do we provide opportunity for those that seek opportunity, and how do we measure those things in the context of making sure we tell our story and tell our story from our perspective. I think that's the other thing, and I'll be done. That's a long answer.
It's okay.
we have to be to tell our story from our perspective, right? Yeah. From an Alpha perspective, they got founders there. We got Martin Luther King Day, but Alphas do great work every day. Every day. Our chapters do good work every day. Our lives are changed every day. So I want to make sure we share that with the world in a forward-facing way, in a corporate forward-facing conversation. So they can say, there's no question. If you have, they can look at a person that's you're an alpha, or you are this, or you're that. They can may say by what you do, what you act, or how you act. But we want to make sure people are really, very, very clear when they look in their rearview mirror and they say, oh, that's an alpha because they're doing great work in the community. They're working with youth, they're working with other organizations, NAACP, Urban League, and others, Red Cross, whomever wants to work in the betterment of our people and our communities. I mean, let's roll up the sleeves and do it. So those are the things I bring to the table. That's a little different than what I've seen, and those are the whys. Because I've had these experiences, I believe that these things can add value in a strategic, long-term way. That would help us be better than we are today, tomorrow.
Very good. That's a lot of personal and professional horsepower to deliver to the leadership of the fraternity. Yeah. So speaking on that, or sort of piggybacking on that, do you have any specific, if you had to choose like 3 to 5, maybe just 3 topics, do you have any specific initiatives that you really want to focus on? I
do. In our Brotherhood silo, we want to make sure that we know all our members and who they are and what they are. I have this conversation called Alpha Capital. I'm going to put it in the dictionary. It's a word. It's 2 words that make a statement. What is an Alpha Capital? What does that look like? We need to make sure we measure that, we understand that, and from all over the globe, what's our power base and who we are, right? That's one thing that I think from focal point. Second is a leadership conversation to talk about making sure that we are aligning ourselves in a way that's most efficient, that we have conversations with our partners that are very strategic and ROI related, and making sure that we have these silos of our organs being the Education Foundation, Building Foundation, and other side entities that they all work in tandem where humanly possible with the underlying mission of the organization. Again, how do we measure alpha capital? And then for me, probably one of the most exciting pieces that's new for many people is the conversation about economics. I'm very direct and focused on that we need to have a DNA that has economics in it, right? As an organization, over 116 years old, economics should be something that comes out. We know where we spend our money. We need to know how we impact communities in that space. Service is great, but where's our money it being positioned, and how do we have opportunities to leverage the capital that we have and create income producing opportunities, not only to give money to our organizations, but it also provides these training tracks for brothers that come in that want to do a certain thing. They can get involved in that. They can learn how to do it, and making sure. And the last piece I'll share is that making sure we have this, what I call a coaching conversation. Actually, there's one more after that we have professional coaches, because life is different, man. And when I was growing up, life was maybe a little easier, maybe because life wasn't crazy, the world. But now, my kids, I want to make sure that they have all these opportunities to be better and talk to folks and engage and have dialogue to help mold a path, as opposed to let me figure it out. Oh, there's a hole. Let's step in it. Let's not step in it, right? So coaches will do that. And ultimately, I would love to engage an opportunity. We have a vertical asset that is our new beacon of light for global management and understanding of how we work as an office, and it will from our corporate office, and that we have something that makes sense for us and that brothers are proud of, and we can have a rally place for issues that happen in the world and for training our members in our community. So those are things for me that we lift up in the dialogue with the brothers. And it's been a great, great journey. Been 9-10 months of it. It ends for some people on Friday. I anticipate it does not end for us on Friday.
Yeah.
And that, the other half of the equation is an at-large election that goes to the middle of December.
Right.
Claiming success already I have, but I'm telling our team, we're claiming success now. We're walking in victory and in faith, that our message just resonates with the brothers, that they would understand that these things is something that we must do now, not later. And that we'll be able to sit back one day and look at our harvest in that, because we were able to tool our ship and make sure. I just had an experience, and I'll be done. We just promoted or launched or presented the documents we found from our 50th anniversary convention. It was in Buffalo, New York. It's been in a can for a while. They pushed it out, and we got to listen to the jewels talk, and all of these folks back in the day that you read about in our books that talked about the issues that they face now. When I listen to those issues, Cedric, it's the same. Oh man, I know in 1906, but and you measure it in the 50s, right? Yeah. When King was there, and they talked about the young Thurgood Marshall and how he was a aggressive young brother, and how they sold in him, gave him opportunities. Those kind of things, man, we need to be able to do that in a way that is more profound now than ever, because we're so more diverse than we were back in the day. Much more diverse. Yeah. But because of that diversity, that becomes our strength. Some people think diversity is a bad word. I don't. And but we are in our own space, in our own African American silo. We're much, much more diverse, which is a challenge. But there's an opportunity to make sure that we can still harvest these gifts that we have to the betterment of those that need it more than us. But yeah, I'm excited. You see.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Yeah.
And you make some great points here. Still no picnic to be an African-American male in America. It's in fact, it's a very unique social disposition, if you will. So outside of your leadership that you're going to bring to the fraternity, you now become a society leader. And do you have any kind of unique ideas for addressing just overall concerns for the Black male in America?
Yeah, I do. I think we need to be clear that in a silo of colors, being black and gold and other colors of other organizations, the problem is bigger than all of that. And that's the leadership that I'd like to see us talk about, is how we look at, I'm not perplexed. I'm just somewhat disturbed about the conversation about people planning jails from third grade numbers. Right? They're playing jails when I want to plan for, instead of prisons, I want to plan for presidents in the third grade. So that means in the aggregate, we need to look at a way that holistically that we look at these youth environments that they learn in or don't learn in, and make sure we undergird that. And it's more important now because if in fact affirmative action does not change its current structure, right? If we don't get the right Supreme Court justice in place, we're stuck with that. It's our obligation to not look at it as a burden, but make sure we turn whatever we get that meant us harm to a positive space. But that takes more than a conversation. That takes resources, that takes strategy. I was telling some of my brothers that when slavery ended, the first learning environment that was created, it was where? Out of the Black churches. Right? There were no schools for Black folks. And they were free. And they're like, okay, what am I going to do now? Churches stepped in, and others, right? So we need to look at a model that talks about how we get into spaces where the minds are fertile, perhaps not have been damaged, perhaps not have been influenced by society or whatever those influencers can be, but then we can give some other pieces of the positive space of influence and put them in there. But not only for the touch points, I'm talking about being able to stay with them over their course of their matriculation, either through these younger years and as they grow older, that we can make sure we empower them to be as successful as they can. And we see that how sports work. Some people look at the sports vernacular and see all these, but people don't really realize how much work it takes to get to that level, right? And there's coaches and the AAU ball. There's all kind of support systems, right, in place for these folks that want to play round ball. They want to throw the rock. They want to, what do they want to do when they get older for the money they make? But there's people behind them every step of the way. If they see talent, well, okay, we see talent academically, we talent socially, or from an oration perspective. Let's put some resources behind there. That's not as sexy, it's not as exciting, but it's necessary. So you see, I'm excited about that. But those are the things I would hope that we could make happen. Yes, that we can do that in a way that has long-term value. And so those are somewhat I asked the question a couple of what's your legacy. It's not so much what are we able to do that adds value? I think someone else should take it and move forward to the next level, a legacy perspective. But how can we do that in a way, again, that 2 + 2 = 5? That's it for me. The sum is always greater than
okay. Excellent. With so if elected, what type of environment do you want to foster in the fraternity that's not currently there?
Yeah. I think that we have this silo of things in the fraternity that everything do well. What I like to do, my point is it exists, right? I like to put some energy behind it. I like to harvest folks that perhaps not as active as others, and like to pull all them together and show the world that who we are, whose we are. That's point one. Point two is making sure we have this vertical asset that people can say that, that's our headquarters. Brothers can feel proud about that and they can engage. And then thirdly, making sure that brothers see where their own skill sets and passions rest, that they see Alpha as a vehicle to make that stronger because other people have the same kind of skill sets and desires, so they can work together to make things better for folks who don't look like they. And then lastly, making sure we have a significant leadership opportunity inside our organization to build members and build leaders, undergird them every step of the way to be able to be these contributors to society and from a citizen perspective, and making sure we carry our conversation that we talk about inside plays well outside. Manly D's, scholarship and love for all mankind. Simple, right? It's just simple, but it's so tough to do every day. Simple to say, tough to do. So it's those kinds of things for me. I would love to be able to see us engage and grow from. That again, it's there. I want it to be more. I want it to be profound. I want to put it on steroids, and then we want to measure it to make sure. Like in all our organizations, there's a list of 50 things we can do, right? If we choose to. The question that we're challenged with: what are the 5, 7, 3 that we can do extremely well, and then that becomes our flag, and let's wave it, because from that context you have more generational wealth, generational harvesting, and you change lives. I think for the better, because you're more holistic in the needs of that person.
Okay, we're going to take one last break and come back with some final questions. We're having a conversation with Hebrew Dixon, candidate for the next president of Alpha Phi Alpha. We'll be right back.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right.
What is Influence DiCOTA? Influence DiCOTA simply means promoting or influencing diversity and communities through opportunities, technologies, and amenities. These are key areas for building and securing a future global society, and who wouldn't want that? Influence DiCOTA can offer specific solutions to the actual challenges facing diversity and inclusion within today's marketplace. With the right mix of diversity and inclusion practices, shared missions, and common sense and values, we can reach our global diversity goals and build a future that's truly global in scope. Influence DiCOTA, offering competitive, compelling, comprehensive coverage that address the actual needs of today's consumers, communities, and commerce. Join the movement now.
Okay, welcome back to the show. We're back with Hebrew Dixon for some final questions here. Welcome back, Hebrew.
Thank you.
So we understand professionally outside of the fraternity, you're affiliated with ARCO and their Supplier Diversity program. Maybe you can kind of unpack a little bit about that for us.
Sure. ARCO Design Bill is the direct affiliation. I'm the first person that's had the opportunity to create a Supplier Diversity program for them. And Supplier Diversity is something that from my excitement and people say one thing, but you get in the trenches is sometimes another. That hadn't been the place at ARCO. They've been consistent with their support of the supply diversity activity. So we are the country's largest industrial contractor. So we own that space. We're thriving that space. And we've been able to see what the history has been for ARCO Design Build and put business rules in place and relationships in place to make sure we look at our pipeline of contractors that's available to do business with us and connect with some relationships. So from that context, it's exciting. I'm excited to be a representative of ARCO Design Build in 4 national entities, the NMSDC, we've got in the minority contractors, we got the National Women in Construction. Not National Women in Construction, National Women Business Enterprise Network, WBANC. And then, of course, NAMC as well. I'm sorry, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as well. So from that context, I'm excited about what that does and how that frames out. So we've been in that space for a while. Through that work, I've been had the opportunity, if you will, to be the president of the NMSDC Construction Industry Advisory Group, where we interface with the country's largest contractors who are siloed and focused on, the supply diversity business model and making sure that business model makes sense.
Outstanding. So you bring that great horsepower to your candidacy as well.
Yes, I do.
Couple of final questions. One is on this show, we have the privilege of meeting some incredible leaders on this show, Hebrew. And one of the things we've noticed that kind of sort of a common vein with leaders, they all tend to be readers. Mm-hmm. Leaders are readers.
They are.
And their go-to book is typically found on their nightstand. What book is on your nightstand? Yeah,
my nightstand is electronic. I'm a listener. I love it, but I'll share several with you. Success, Motivation to the Words by Charles Capes. And it's a biblical account at how success is manifested in business. The other one I really are excited about is a Strategic Leadership Strategies by John Willick. So that's one. And I do, of course, you can't do any leadership without spending time with, I want to get the right title here. Yes, here it comes. John C. Maxwell. So I've got several books for John C. Maxwell from leadership, from that context, and making sure you're clear. And then lastly, it is the 7 effective habits of people, and then what to eat right for your blood type. So from that context, and I enjoy Obama's book as well. I enjoyed that book, the last one he did, and it gave his journey. And so from those contexts, we try to make sure we spend that appetite of reading as you're driving from Atlanta. You got hours in a car. Just make sure you use it wisely. So I've been able to do that.
Outstanding. It's been a great interview, Hebrew. One final question for any of our viewers who may want to follow up with you, maybe even reach out and support you.
Yes.
How can they best reach you?
You can reach me at our email address. Our campaign is Dixon4APHA.com. It's Dixon 4APHIA.com. So that'll get you to our website. From that context, you can see ways to interface with us, a couple different platforms, if you will. Other thing I'll share with you is that we have a thing called the Alpha Relevancy app. So, and that's probably more attainable than a website, but you can go to any store and put Hebrew Dixon in the Apple Store or Android store, and you'll find the Alpha Relevancy app. There you'll find everything about the fraternity, about how to connect with the fraternity, about the programs we do, and of course the website connection. And one thing that I'm really excited about on that, for those brothers that are out there that may be in business, is a place for you to put your business in our VIP space that would engage you with this pool of alpha men, if you will, that have businesses, and perhaps they could do that. So all those that may want to learn about the fraternity, it's a great place to do that, because there's tools for that to go. Even if you're not an alpha that you may want to learn about us, that alpha app gives you the opportunity to connect with those other resources as well.
Hebrew, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
We want to wish you the best of success with your candidate.
Thank you. Got it right. Appreciate you guys. Great work you're doing. Just so blessed that you spent a little time with me, and just keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference. I can only imagine the other entities that spend time with you, how blessing it must be for you and for others. God bless you both. Ms. Jordan, thank you so much. Cedric, thank you so much for allowing me to spend some time with you. You guys have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.